Due to copyright, I can't publish many audiobooks on YouTube. At our audiobook novel service, we offer access to over 300 full novels from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, Wuxia, and more, all in high-quality audio format. Each novel is available with a one-time payment only. No subscriptions, no monthly payment, and no ads. Payments via PayPal or Ko-fi. To browse the full list of available novels, message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out our full catalog on Discord. Chapter 161. New Trait. After killing the Orc King, Galliner fell to his knee due to exhaustion and excessive blood loss. Sir Galliner. Alaric's voice drifted into his ears, and he felt a pair of hands holding on to him, preventing him from falling over. My lord, I have done my job, the Transcendent uttered with deep breaths. Hearing this, Alaric smiled faintly and nodded. Yes, Sir Galliner, you have exceeded my expectations. Please don't say anything more and take this chance to rest. We will handle everything here. Galliner acknowledged his command with a nod of his head. He then handed him the dark diamond shield and the rare steel sword. Thank you for lending me your shield and sword, my lord. Alaric brought him to a safe corner before he returned to the battle. With the support of William and Warwick, the Orc Lords were quickly taken down. At this moment, only 3 Orc Lords were left, and they were covered in wounds and bruises. They were surrounded by a group of elite knights who were staring at them with cold gazes. At this moment, Alaric appeared next to the elite knights. I'll handle one of them. You guys take care of the other 2. Yes, my lord, the elite knights responded. In the next moment, Alaric chose his target. It was an Orc Lord holding a pair of axes. With a quick pounce, he brandished his sword, bringing forth a destructive sword wave that tore through the air. Whoosh! The Orc Lord was already spent, and it was close to depleting its mana. In the face of this attack, all it could do was take the full brunt of the damage. It used what remained of its mana to shield its body. Bang! The sword wave struck the beast and cut open its flesh. Tsk. Alaric clicked his tongue. The power he had released wasn't even half of what Galliner had unleashed to kill the Orc King. This left him dissatisfied and also marveled at the huge difference in strength between a Transcendent Knight and an Elite Knight. The Orc Lord that had been struck by the sword wave slammed into the wall. The gaping wound in its chest bled profusely, making it weaker. Seeing that it was still alive, Alaric lunged at the monster and stabbed its head with his sword. KKHHSSHHKK. The light in its eyes vanished and it soon collapsed to the ground. Thud. Alaric no longer spared it a glance. He turned his head to check the situation. There were only 2 Orc Lords left, and they were being ganged up on by a group of elite knights. A few minutes later, the 2 monsters finally fell. Now that all the powerful monsters had been killed, the morale of the troops rose exponentially. The main force led the troops in decimating the remaining Orc generals and Orc warriors. This time, it had become a one-sided massacre. The human warriors were like a pack of wolves hunting their prey. After another hour of intense battle, the last Orc warrior died. We won! I'm alive! It's finally over! Everyone cheered as they collapsed in exhaustion. It was a tough battle and not one warrior was uninjured. Meanwhile, Alaric also received a notification from the system. Undersir. Mission complete. Rewards, 800 battle points, 40 XP, 40 stat points, equipment upgrade card X1, random trait card X1. Undersir. Do you want to use your random trait card? Yes. No. Alaric clicked yes without much hesitation. You have awakened the B-rank appraisal trait. Appraisal? Alaric raised an eyebrow after receiving the notification. Do you want to select the target for appraisal? Yes. No. A notification written in white characters appeared in front of him when he subconsciously moved his gaze to the approaching Argus. Huh? What's this? He curiously clicked yes. Argus, Knight, EXP. 489/500. Potential, D. Traits. Horseback riding, C. Swordsmanship, C. Archery, D. Territory management, B. Close combat, D. Strength, 85. Stamina, 62. Agility, 77. Vitality, 66. Endurance, 71. Mana, 88. Alaric was stunned when he saw the rows of texts that appeared in front of him. It actually showed Argus's attributes. Praisal. What an apt name. Alaric was excited at the new trait he had acquired. It could actually show the numerical representation of someone's attributes. While he was immersed in his thoughts, Argus stopped in front of him and smiled. "My lord, congratulations on the victory." The old man's words pulled him from his thoughts. Alaric stared at the old knight. He was also injured, but he only had light injuries. With a shake of his head, he replied, "I don't deserve your words, my lord. It is only because of everyone's efforts that we managed to emerge victorious." The old baron smiled at his words. "That's true, but you were the one who gathered us here." Argus stared at the young man with admiration. To achieve this kind of success at his age, even his father wasn't this good. "By the way, how are Sir Henry and the others doing?" Alaric asked, his face turning serious. Sensing the sternness in his voice, Argus immediately responded. "Lord Dillon has awakened and his condition is already stable. As for Sir Henry and Lord Smith, they are still receiving treatment." Hearing this, Alaric frowned. Looking at his gloomy face, Argus reassured him. "Don't worry, my lord. They are both elite knights. I'm sure they can recover from this." Alaric nodded in agreement. Elite knights had higher vitality and endurance, so they could recover faster as long as their injuries weren't fatal. "What about the casualties?" he asked in a low voice. The battle was more intense than he had anticipated because of the unforeseen circumstances. Argus took a deep breath before he answered. "We still haven't gotten a detailed report, but based on what I have seen, I think we lost almost 400 warriors." Alaric sighed upon hearing this. "Tell our soldiers to gather the corpses of our comrades. We will bring them to North Pinetown and bury them in Mount Tejera." Chapter 162. Cold Iron Deposit. The warriors who had nothing to do were tasked to take the usable parts of the orcs' corpses. Some were also instructed to collect the beast soul crystals. At this moment, Alaric was looking at the progress of his attributes. Alaric's Silversword Elite Knight, EXP. 102. 142/1000. Potential A. Traits. Horseback Riding C. Swordsmanship, SSS. Close Combat, C. Archery, E. Hunting E. Tracking E. Sixth Sense, E. Monster Affinity, F. Mana Gathering C. Appraisal B. Strength, 170. Stamina, 180. Agility, 180. Vitality, 150. Endurance, 160.
Mana, 228.
Battle points, 980. 1780. Stat points, 40. Requirements for the next advancement, 1000 EXP, 250 in all attributes, and 10,000 battle points. Just then, he heard someone approaching. He raised his head and saw Fredrin walking toward him with a solemn look on his face. Fredrin saluted and said, "My lord, I'm here to give you the battle report." Alaric nodded at his words. "Go on. I'm listening." "We have already retrieved the corpses of our fallen comrades, and 389 were killed in the battle. 220 are seriously wounded." Fredrin reported the casualties with a grim expression. After hearing his report, Alaric let out a deep sigh. He then tapped Fredrin's shoulder and told him, "You should get some rest. Have someone treat your wounds too." Fredrin nodded. "Yes, my lord." Alaric went to visit the warriors who were receiving treatment and gave them a respectful salute. "Thank you for coming here with me, my brave comrades. The victory would have been impossible without your presence." He paused and scanned everyone's faces one by one before he continued. "I don't know what your lords have promised you, but I guarantee that all warriors who have participated in this battle will be rewarded accordingly." The warriors were ecstatic upon hearing this. "All hail Lord Alaric! All hail Lord Alaric!" Alaric waved his hand and left. This time he headed to where the corpses of the dead warriors were gathered. He saw a few warriors standing in front of the dead bodies with distraught faces. He also heard some people crying and bawling in front of their friends' corpses. Looking at the rows of corpses, Alaric felt a heavy pressure descending upon his shoulders. Some warriors sensed his presence and were surprised. In the next moment, they saw him giving the fallen warriors a respectful salute. While he was silently honoring the sacrifices of the fallen men, a voice drifted into his ears. "My lord, we have gathered all the beast soul crystals from the orcs' bodies." Alaric turned around and saw that it was Baron Nathan. "You don't need to tell me this. All the spoils from this battle will be divided between the houses who have participated in the subjugation," Alaric uttered in a calm voice. Baron Nathan revealed a troubled look. "I know, my lord, but everyone has decided to give you the beast soul crystals of the Orc King and the 6 Orc Lords." He beckoned to the warrior standing behind him. The warrior understood his intentions and presented the 7 beast soul crystals to Alaric. Alaric was taken aback. He thought that these greedy lords would take everything. He didn't expect that they would actually take the initiative to offer the best drops to him. Seeing that he was silent, Baron Nathan added, "Please, my lord, take these crystals. Otherwise, there will be an infighting between the houses." Alaric knew that he was only giving a random excuse, but he didn't reject the crystals. He took them and placed them inside a leather pouch. "Tell the lords that I'm grateful for their thoughtfulness." Baron Nathan grinned. "I will relay your message to everyone, my lord. Please excuse me." Alaric nodded and waved his hand, indicating for him to leave. The Baron didn't linger any further and left. He then relayed Alaric's exact words to the lords. "That's good. I'm glad that Lord Alaric took the crystals." A lord sighed with relief. "Indeed. I'm sure everyone here agrees that House Silversword deserves most of the credit." Lord Argus squinted his eyes while observing the lords' faces. He was the one who suggested offering the 7 beast soul crystals to Alaric. He felt that only Alaric and House Silversword should take them. "Of course. If someone thinks otherwise, I will be the first one to punch their face." Lord Ermac snorted as he glared at the lords present. "That's enough. Everyone here is an ally. There's no need to create unnecessary tension," Baron Argus sternly remarked. The lords nodded upon hearing his words. The battle brought them closer to each other, and they even thought of creating an alliance with House Silversword as the core. At this moment, an urgent voice suddenly echoed, "My lords!" Everyone turned their heads and saw a group of warriors rushing toward them, their faces filled with excitement and joy. "What is it?" Lord Argus asked while raising an eyebrow. "We discovered a huge deposit of cold iron," the warrior reported. "What?" The lords were stunned upon hearing this. "Cold iron? There's such a thing here? What should we do, my lords?" the warrior hesitantly asked. Argus frowned. This could fracture the alliance that they were about to establish. When melted and refined, cold iron was even more durable than steel. The equipment made from it was also more valuable, so it was sought after by many lords and rich merchants. Unfortunately, this metal was rare and difficult to find. Argus grabbed the warrior's shoulder and asked with a serious look, "How huge is this cold iron deposit?" The lords became silent and they all stared at the warrior, waiting for him to speak. Sensing everyone's eyes on him, the warrior almost collapsed from the pressure. "We just discovered it, so we are not sure about the size, but based on what I saw, I think it's more than enough to arm the entire North with equipment made from cold iron." "That much?" Chapter 163, Baron Argus's Suggestion. "Did you send someone to inform Lord Alaric about this?" Argus asked. "Yes, my lord. I'm sure Lord Alaric has already heard of it by now," the warrior replied with a nod. "All right, you may go back and continue with the investigations. There might be more treasures hidden in this cave." Argus waved his hand, gesturing for them to leave. The warriors didn't stay any longer. They bowed and left to continue their investigation. Argus turned his head and noticed the gloomy faces of the lords. When he saw this, he already knew what was going on in their minds. "Stop overthinking it," he snorted. His words gathered everyone's attention. Sensing their gazes, Argus said, "Haven't you seen what kind of person Lord Alaric is? If you want a share of that cold iron deposit, then you guys better work for it. Don't even think about planning anything shady." He warned them. They could understand the implications of his words. Betraying House Silversword was no different than suicide. They had seen their military power, and it was something that their little houses couldn't afford to offend. "Don't worry, Lord Argus. We know our limits. We are not stupid." "That's right. We will never betray Lord Alaric and House Silversword." Meanwhile, Alaric had also received a report about the discovery. "I have never heard of a cold iron deposit in my past life." He frowned as he tried to remember the major events that had occurred in his past life. Suddenly, he seemed to have recalled something important. "I remember that the imperial family sent their army to wipe out the orc tribes after Vale was almost destroyed. In his past life, the imperial family sent a huge army to destroy the scattered orc tribes near the northern borders. It was even led by the second prince himself. Many northern lords were even asked to participate at that time. Did the second prince swallow the entire cold iron deposit all by himself? That was the only conclusion he could think of. Alaric shook off the random thoughts and focused on the matter at hand. He was certain that this could lead to trouble if not handled well. The northern lords might appear loyal now, but he knew that some of those people wouldn't hesitate to betray them for the sake of profit. While he was thinking how he should handle this problem, he saw the lords approaching him, their faces having varying expressions. Some were excited, some were nervous, and there were also those who looked unperturbed. Alaric's gaze happened to stop at a middle-aged warrior whose armor was covered in blood. This man was an elite knight from House Heinrich. He was probably a representative sent as a proxy for Baron Smith. "Do you want to use appraisal on the target?" "Yes." "No." Alaric clicked, "Yes." Ray, elite knight, EXP. 63/1000. Potential, D. Traits: horseback riding, C. Spear mastery, C. Archery, C. Close combat, D. Hunting, D. Strength, 90. Stamina, 105. Agility, 139. Vitality, 94. Endurance, 90.
Mana, 115.
His attributes are very low for an elite knight. Only his agility is somewhat acceptable. Alaric commented in his mind. "My lord, I apologize for disturbing you when you have a lot of things to do, but I think we should discuss how we should handle the cold iron deposit." Argus didn't waste any time and went straight to the topic. Hearing this, Alaric closed the cyan screen. "I understand." He smiled faintly at the old baron and asked, "Then how do you think we should handle it, Lord Argus? Do you have any suggestions in mind?" Argus was taken aback, not expecting Alaric to ask for his opinion. After a moment of surprise, he gathered his thoughts and calmly responded, "Since you are asking for my humble opinion, then I will speak freely." Alaric nodded and gestured for him to continue speaking. "Everyone in the north is already aware of this orc subjugation mission, and we can't hide this fact from the Empire. This will draw a lot of attention, and once news about the cold iron deposit leaks, many will come to claim it for themselves, including the imperial family." The old baron uttered with certainty, to which everyone nodded in agreement. "So the first thing we should do is to keep things under wraps. I suggest that everyone here should sign a non-disclosure agreement, and whoever breaks the contract will face the collective attack." The old baron stated a convincing opinion. "That's indeed a wonderful idea, my lord. Then how should we divide the cold iron deposit?" Alaric stared deeply at the old man. Everyone gulped in anticipation. This was what they were worried about, and Baron Argus's next words might decide how the cold iron deposit would be distributed. Facing everyone's heated gazes, the old man took a deep breath before he replied, "How about this, my lord? House Silversword will receive 60% of the total mind ore, and the rest will be divided evenly between the rest of us. The lords narrowed their eyes upon hearing this. His suggestion was within their tolerated range, so no one said a word of complaint. All that was left was Alaric's approval. The latter rubbed his chin with a thoughtful look. The old man's offer was very generous, and it seemed that everyone was satisfied with it. After a moment of silence, Alaric smiled and nodded his head. "All right, let's do that. House Silversword will take 60% of the total amount of or that will be mined, and the rest will be distributed evenly between you guys. In exchange for taking most of the ores, House Silversword will be responsible for the safety of the miners. We will send an army to protect the area. That way, everyone here can be assured." The lords could only smile helplessly. He worded it like he wanted to protect the miners, but those with sharp minds knew that it was also a warning for them. Chapter 164, Wolf, Son of Jerry. In the next 7 days, news about the success of the orc subjugation quickly spread across the northern part of Estania, and it was still spreading throughout the other parts of the empire. The lords who didn't participate in the quest became even more concerned. They were afraid that House Silversword would unite the surrounding houses and oppress them for refusing to answer their call. The fact that House Silversword had 4 transcendents was also revealed, increasing the fame of this once obscure noble household. 3 names also became known to the public: Galliner, Warwick, and William. Stories about their battles became a favorite topic of conversation. At this moment, on top of Mount Tedra, thousands of people attended the funeral of the men who were killed in the orc subjugation. The funeral ceremony was officiated by a high-ranking cleric from the church. With a solemn voice, the cleric uttered, "Let's take a moment of silence for the warriors who sacrificed their lives for the sake of our safety." The crowd lowered their heads upon hearing the cleric's words. After another hour, the ceremony finally ended. Alaric was about to head back to the main mansion when a messenger came to approach him. "My lord, there is a letter from Lord Lucas." Alaric took the letter from him and waved his hand. "You may leave." The messenger bowed and left right away. Alaric removed the seal and opened the letter. So he is in the capital now. The official duel should begin soon. Alaric smiled faintly as he read the contents of the letter. He then folded the paper and put it inside his pocket before heading home with Galliner and a few other warriors. He jumped onto his horse, but before they could leave, a young voice drifted into their ears. "Lord Alaric." Alaric turned his head and saw a family of 3. It was a middle-aged woman holding a baby in her arms. There was also a young boy around the age of 13 or 14 standing next to her. The one who had called him was the teen, and it seemed like he had something to say, but his mother stopped him. "I'm sorry, my lord. I didn't discipline him enough," the mother apologetically said while pulling her son behind her. "Mom, I want to say something to Lord Alaric," the young man pleaded, but he was met with his mother's stern glare. Seeing this, Alaric was curious to know what he had to say. "It is all right. Let him speak." He nodded to the mother before giving the young man a look of encouragement. The mother hesitated, but since the lord had already spoken, she could only comply while hoping that her son wouldn't say something rude. The young man eagerly stepped forward and gave Alaric a snappy salute. Alaric was a bit surprised to see this. From how he had performed the salute, it felt like the young man had been practicing it for a while. "My lord, I want to become a warrior of House Silversword. I want to be a hero like my father," the young man uttered with strong conviction. The mother, who was initially worried, suddenly cried when she heard her son's words. Alaric's gaze softened. "What is your name?" he asked. "My name is Wolf," the young man responded. "Wolf, what is your father's name?" Alaric stared at the young man. "Jerry. My father's name is Jerry," the young man replied. Alaric nodded his head.
Wolf, son Jerry.
"If you want to become a warrior of House Silversword, then I will gladly accept you. However, becoming a warrior is not easy. It is filled with many challenges and dangers. Are you sure about this?" The young man nodded with a determined look. "I have already discussed this with my father." "Have you gotten your mother's approval?" The young man glanced at his mother, whose face was covered in tears. You should discuss this with your mother first. Once you have gotten her permission, then you can come and visit me. There was a reason why Alaric was willing to spare his time for this young man despite his busy schedule. Wolf, Knight Apprentice, EXP, 50/100, Potential A, Traits, Swordsmanship, F, Archery, E, Close Combat, F, Hunting, F, Farming, D, Strength, 12, Stamina, 15, Agility, 18, Vitality, 11, Endurance, 12.
Mana, 8.
This was what he saw after using his appraisal trait on the young man. It turned out that this young man was already a knight apprentice, but the most special thing about him was his potential, which was similar to his own. Based on what I have seen through the appraisal trait, people with D-rated potential can become an elite knight. Those with the potential above C can become transcendents. He had uncovered this knowledge after repeatedly using the appraisal trait on everyone he had encountered in the past few days. My lord, I will come and look for you soon. The young man was satisfied now that he had spoken with Alaric. All that was left to do was to get his mother's approval. I will wait for you, Wolf, son of Jerry. Alaric chuckled and took one last look at the young man before he departed with the other warriors. Wolf stared at their disappearing figures with clenched hands. Mom, I have already thought things through. I want to serve Lord Alaric. Hearing her son's words, the mother forced out a smile. You are just like your father. She stared at the horizon as if she was looking at her late husband's image. Let's go home first. If you really want to serve Lord Alaric, then I won't stop you. But let's visit the chapel first and pray that Aru will accept your father in his kingdom. Hearing this, Wolf nodded while trying hard not to cry. As they walked home, Wolf muttered in his heart, Father, you always told me to find the right person to serve. I think I found the person I'm looking for. Chapter 165. The Head Blacksmith, Goran. Upon his arrival at the estate, Alaric encountered his mother outside the main mansion. Seeing her, he took out the letter sent by Lucas and handed it to her. Is this from your father? Maria asked as she took the letter. Alaric nodded. Yes, my lady. There were people around, so he couldn't speak informally with her. I will read it later then. Maria smiled and kept the letter. Anyway, how is the situation at the cold iron mine? She asked. The cold iron deposit was of huge importance to House Silversword. They could use the mined ores to upgrade the equipment of their warriors, and they could also sell the excess for additional funds. It is Sir Warwick's turn to look after the mines. I do not think someone will be stupid enough to attack it while he is there. Alaric chuckled in response. He had promised to ensure the security of the mining site, so he sent the warriors of House Silversword to guard the area in rotating shifts. That is good then. I will talk with you later. I still have some things to do. Maria gracefully left after bidding him farewell. Now that Lucas was gone, most of his tasks and obligations fell on her shoulders. She had been really busy in the past few days, and her workload increased after the cold iron deposit was discovered. Now that I have delivered Dad's letter, I should visit the smithy and see if the weapon I ordered has been made. After their return from the orc subjugation, Alaric took a huge chunk of cold iron together with the mithril chains that he got from Fredrin and brought it to the smithy. He asked the blacksmiths of the household to create a sword that was suited for his dual-wielding sword style. He only had the rare steel sword. The other one couldn't keep up anymore after the recent battles that they had gone through. However, the main reason he asked for a customized sword was because he discovered that he couldn't use the equipment upgrade card on the rare steel sword and the dark diamond shield. As to why that happened, he still had no idea even until now. The group headed to the smithy, which was quite far from the main mansion. Soon, they arrived in front of an ordinary-looking two-story building. The rhythmic sounds of hammer hitting metal echoed and drifted into their ears. The warriors guarding the entrance of the smithy were shocked to see them. My lord! Don't mind me. Alaric waved his hand and tapped their shoulders before he entered the building. Upon entering, the hammering sounds became louder, and those who weren't used to the noise might find it irritating. However, to Alaric it was music to his ears. When he was young, He had always been fascinated with smithing, and he had even snuck out many times during his swordsmanship training to watch the blacksmiths do their work. The blacksmiths and their apprentices were too focused in their work that they failed to notice their arrival. Alaric didn't disturb these hard-working people and went to look for a certain blacksmith. There was only one person in the entire smithy who had the skills and the strength to make a weapon out of mithril. This was because of the strict requirements of processing this metal. An ordinary blacksmith wouldn't be able to withstand the heat when melting mithril, and they certainly didn't have the strength to mold it into a weapon. Only a blacksmith who had the power and the endurance equivalent to that of a knight could do this job. Fortunately, there was one such person in this smithy, a middle-aged man named Goran. Goran was the head blacksmith of the smithy, and he had decades of experience. Furthermore, he was also a retired knight, one who had some fame in his youth. Goran's workshop was on the 5th basement floor, and it took them more than 10 minutes before they arrived. As soon as they got there, Alaric saw a muscular middle-aged man with long graying hair leaning lazily on his recliner. His face was beet red, and he was holding a leather flask, looking completely drunk. As Alaric walked inside the workshop, the strong smell of ale assaulted his nose. The middle-aged man who was dozing off heard their footsteps and abruptly turned his head. "Didn't I tell you that I'm still busy? Go and dash." "Ah, my lord." The middle-aged man immediately rose to his feet when he realized that it was him. He hid the leather flask behind him and let out a smile. "I see that you are doing well, Sir Goran." Alaric chuckled, not caring about the man's slovenly appearance. He was already familiar with this person since he was a regular visitor to this place. Goran squeezed out an ugly smile as he asked hesitantly, "Are you here for your sword, my lord?" "That is right. Is there any update on that project, Sir Goran?" Alaric didn't look down on this man. He might look like a beggar, but his skills were the real deal. "About that, it will be better if I show you. Follow me." Goran signaled for him to follow. Alaric nodded and signaled for the others to stay before he followed Goran inside the forging room. The temperature noticeably increased, and it was even to the point that it could harm an ordinary person. "I apologize for the heat, my lord. This happened when I was refining the mithril chains you brought. It has so many impurities, so I had to—" Look at me yapping about unnecessary things." Goran chuckled. "My lord, do you see that small clump of metal right there? That's what I got from the mithril chains. And that one right there is the smelted cold iron. I'm still waiting for them to cool down a bit before I mix them and form the blade." Alaric nodded. "How long would it take you to complete this project, Sir Goran?" Chapter 166. The capital city of Estania, Cadera. Goran rubbed his chin and pondered for a moment before he replied. "If you need it immediately, I can expedite the refining and forming process. It should take me around 2 days to complete the sword. If my lord is not in a hurry, then I can make the sword have better balance and also more sophisticated, but it would take me 3 to 5 days to complete." Alaric furrowed his eyebrows upon hearing this. Goran could usually forge a sword within 2 days, including the smelting process. The fact that a master artisan like him needed a week to make this custom-made sword spoke volumes of its complicated forging process. "You can take your time, Sir Goran. I am not in a hurry. If there is anything you need, do not hesitate to let me know." Alaric wanted a good quality sword, preferably one at the level of a relic. However, he knew that it wasn't easy to forge a weapon at that level, so he didn't say anything to avoid placing unnecessary pressure on Goran. "Actually, there is something that I need your help with, my lord," Goran mumbled hesitantly. Looking at his troubled face, Alaric raised an eyebrow. "Go ahead, Sir Goran. As long as it is within my means, then I will do my best to fulfill your request." Goran cleared his throat and spoke. "With the materials that my lord has provided, I can forge a relic, but there's one problem." He looked at Alaric with a stern look as he uttered, "We need a beast soul warrior to engrave an ability on the sword. The more powerful the beast soul warrior, the more powerful the finished product will be." Alaric nodded. This was true, and he had read it in a book when he was young. Beast soul warriors had the ability to engrave their traits into certain weapons. Once successful, the weapon will carry the trait they had engraved. However, this was very taxing on the Beast Soul warriors because it would deplete their mana, and this would even cause irreversible damage if done incorrectly. This was the reason why there wasn't a lot of relic-level equipment. Finding a Beast Soul warrior will be difficult, but I will try my best. In the meantime, please complete the sword first so that by the time I bring a Beast Soul warrior over, only the engraving process will be needed. Goran nodded. Yes, my lord. Then I shall not disturb you any further. Alaric left after bidding Goran farewell. After stepping out of the smithy, he wiped off the sweat on his face with a clean linen towel. Blacksmiths are really built different, but they should take care of their health too. Constant exposure to such level of heat might cause serious problems. I should ask Mom to create a public bathhouse here since the nearest one is too far from the smithy. I will worry about this later. Mom still has many things to do, so I should not add more to that. The most important thing right now is to look for a Beast Soul warrior. Where can I even find a Beast Soul warrior? Should I visit that old man from the church? Alaric thought about Bishop Anton. The old man was a 3-ringed Beast Soul master, an expert who had integrated 3 traits into his soul marks. If he could get the old man to engrave an ability into his sword, he wondered how powerful it would be. Author's note: Beast Soul Warriors is the general term, while Nth-ringed Beast Soul Master is the name of the realm. I can visit Hershey too and propose marriage. He had already gotten Nathan's approval, so all that was to formally ask Hershey. I am coming, Hershey. It was the 20th day of March, in the year 209 of the Estanian calendar. On this very day, the capital city of Estania, Cadera, was bustling with activity. The sidewalks were filled with tourists and locals. There were also droves of carriages passing by the cobbled roads. The reason for this surge of traffic was because of the event being hosted by the imperial family. It was an official match between warriors of the Estanian Dragon Leaderboard. Normally, an event like this wouldn't need the imperial family's presence. But the participants of this match were special. One was ranked 11th in the Estanian Dragon Leaderboard, while the other one was ranked 9th. These two were some of the most powerful figures in the empire, so the imperial family decided to host the match. Located at the innermost part of Cadera was a huge coliseum where the battle between the 2 top warriors would be held. Even outside the coliseum, the sonorous shouts of the spectators could already be heard. The venue was fully packed and everyone was boiling with excitement. At the center of the coliseum was a platform that was about 200 feet long and 75 feet wide. It was purposefully designed this way to give the fighters enough room to move around during their battles. At this moment, Lucas Silversword was in the resting area, watching the preliminary matches before his fight. They even invited elite knights to fight in the preliminary rounds. Lucas chuckled. This was the 4th preliminary match and his fight was scheduled next. Once this match ends, it would be his turn to step onto the stage. Suddenly, he saw a servant approaching him. My lord, please get ready. The main event is about to begin. Hearing this, Lucas nodded. All right. He then stood up and grabbed his equipment, a round steel shield, and a relic-level broadsword. Looking at the towering figure in front of him, the servant was intimidated. He felt like he was in the presence of a prehistoric beast. So this is the Shield of the North, Lucas Silversword. After recovering from his shock, the servant cleared his throat. Please follow me, my lord. I will take you to the waiting area. Chapter 167. Prince Giovanni Aurelius Estania, the main event. When Lucas stepped out of the resting area, the spectators immediately spotted him. Look, it's the Shield of the North, Lord Lucas Silversword. The Shield of the North. The Shield of the North. The spectators went wild with excitement and they cheered loudly for him. The noise and the bustle of the crowd fell into Lucas's ears. It has been a while since I last stood in the middle of this crowd. The stern-faced Lucas let out a rare smile as he thought of this. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, the challenger, Roderick Lassiter, finally appeared. The spectators became even more excited and the noise inside the Colosseum intensified. Roderick Lassiter wore a cold look on his face as he waited for the preliminary round to end. I have been waiting for this very moment, Lucas. Show me how much you have progressed while you were in the north. In the spectators' seats, there was a section where only the most important guests were seated. Among the people seated in this particular section was the second prince, Prince Giovanni Aurelius Estania. He had short golden hair and a pair of ocean blue eyes. His expression was one of boredom, as if he wasn't impressed with the battle on the platform. "How are the preparations?" the second prince lazily asked as he looked at the man seated next to him. It was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his late 40s. He was dressed in fashionable noble attire embellished with shiny accessories. "We have already prepared everything, Your Highness. All that is left is for Lucas to accept our invitation." The fashionably dressed gentleman replied with a respectful smile. "Good. No matter the results of the match, we must get Lucas to join our side," the second prince uttered with a serious tone. The challenge this time was carefully orchestrated by him, all for the sake of making Lucas come to the capital. "As long as I have Lucas, the entire north will be mine." Prince Giovanni's eyes flashed with ambition. He refused to acknowledge the emperor's decision to give the throne to his elder brother. He believed that only the strong should take that seat. "Yes, Your Highness. I will make sure that everything will go according to your plans," the middle-aged gentleman promised. "I believe in your ability, Lord Thompson." The second prince smiled faintly. Suddenly, the crowd erupted into applause and their loud cheers echoed across the Colosseum. The most anticipated event was about to start, and the protagonists of this event have been called onto the stage. Under the heated gazes of the spectators, Lucas stepped onto the platform. His gait was neither fast nor slow. It was measured with great precision, showing his confidence and dignity with each step. As he stood on the platform, a heavy pressure descended upon him. Lucas narrowed his eyes as he looked at the person who caused this pressure. Roderick Lassiter was also a tall man himself. He was over 2 meters tall with thick muscles under his steel armor. He was holding a mace and a diamond-shaped shield. Both were relic-level equipment, and Lucas could tell this at a glance. While the referee was explaining the rules of the match, Lucas and Roderick locked gazes, causing sparks to fly in all directions. The tension was evident, and the referee almost collapsed from the intense pressure they exuded. While wiping off his sweat, the referee announced the commencement of the battle. After the referee left, Roderick opened his mouth and shouted, "Lucas, show me what you got." His booming voice reverberated through the Colosseum. As soon as his voice fell, he stomped his foot and took the initiative to attack. His heavy footsteps caused the platform to tremble. A tremendous force was unleashed as he swung his mace. Whoosh! A violent flame burst forth, threatening to burn everything in its path. This was the unique ability of his mace, flame manipulation. It was engraved by a powerful beast soul warrior, so its firepower was undeniably strong. Facing these fearsome flames, Lucas snorted and waved his sword, letting loose his mana to release the sword's power. In the next moment, a powerful gale erupted and clashed with the flames. Bang! A deafening explosion followed after their attacks collided. Subsequently, the two transcendents released a barrage of attacks, causing more explosions and shockwaves. The spectators couldn't even follow their movements. They moved so fast that it looked like everything was a blur. Only the warriors at the level of knights and above could see what was happening, but even then they could barely follow. Insane. So this is how the experts in the Estanian Dragon leaderboard fight. Who do you think will win? I can't say for sure. Lord Roderick has decades more experience. But Lord Lucas isn't a simple character either. No one could guess how the battle would conclude, but this didn't stop them from enjoying the fight. At this moment, Lucas's shield was already showing signs of cracks. It wasn't a relic-level equipment, so it couldn't withstand a series of beatings from a transcendent. Not to mention that Roderick wasn't just an ordinary transcendent, but an expert ranked 11th in the Estanian Dragon leaderboard. TSK. He knows that my shield isn't a relic, so he is purposely hitting it. I must end this battle before my shield breaks, Lucas thought to himself as he adjusted his stance. He wasn't just idling when he was in the north. When everyone was busy doing other things, he was secretly training by himself. He released a burst of mana to fully tap into the power of his sword. I must finish this in one move. As he thought of this, his figure blurred as he lunged at Roderick. The latter immediately sensed his attack and raised his shield to protect his body. He also imbued the shield with mana to increase its defensive abilities. Do you think that flimsy shield can block my sword? Lucas stared coldly at his opponent as he unleashed a powerful blow. Chapter 168. Lucas's Shocking Challenge. A sharp sword wind was released as Lucas swung his sword. It brought forth a terrifying force that caused the air to twist and turn. What fearsome sword wind! Roderick sensed the overwhelming might of the attack, so he immediately imbued the relic-level shield with mana to activate its power. The inscriptions on the shield lit up, forming a thick, defensive wall made of mana. In the next instant, a deafening boom rang out, forcing the spectators to cover their ears. What the hell? What if they suddenly launch an attack our way? Don't worry, we will be safe. Do you see the old man over there? That old man is the guardian of this Colosseum. He is a three-ringed beast soulmaster whose task is to ensure the safety of the spectators. What? There's actually such an expert here other than Lord Lucas and Lord Roderick? Of course. As the dust cloud subsided, everyone saw a massive crater on the platform. Look, Lord Roderick seems to be injured. Everyone could see that Roderick had received serious injuries after taking on that blow. There was a small cut on his forehead that caused bleeding. Even his steel armor couldn't withstand the attack and sustained some damage. However, Roderick remained calm as he stared at Lucas on the opposite side of the crater. If I hadn't activated the power of my shield in that last second, I could have lost an arm. Lucas' silver sword. I still can't beat him. Roderick appeared calm on the surface, but he was reeling in shock deep inside. Lucas's improvement was beyond his comprehension. After that blow, Roderick realized that Lucas had already surpassed him and the difference in their strength was getting increasingly bigger. With a deep, regretful sigh, Roderick turned his head to the referee and said, "I admit defeat. It wasn't a death match, so there was no need to continue the battle." The referee was surprised, but he quickly announced the result of the match. Lord Lucas has successfully defended his ranking. The rankings in the Estanian Dragon leaderboard will remain unchanged. As soon as the announcement was made, the crowd erupted into tumultuous applause. The battle might have ended quicker than they had anticipated, but the overwhelming might displayed by both warriors was still lingering in their minds. Lucas looked away from Roderick and turned his head toward the VIP section, where the special guests were seated. It was only a small movement, but the crowd could sense that something shocking was about to happen. Lucas stabbed his sword into the ground and raised his arm to point at a certain individual seated next to the second prince. "I challenge you, Andre Thompson." His calm voice echoed thunderously, shaking everyone to their core. Everyone turned their gazes toward the fashionably dressed Andre Thompson. He was the right-hand man of the second prince, a transcendent knight ranked 5th in the Estanian Dragon leaderboard. He had been in this position for decades, and no one had challenged him since he took the spot. The man in question, Andre Thompson, was stunned. He couldn't believe that Lucas would actually challenge him in front of a large crowd. Not to mention that the second prince was just right beside him. His face twitched. With thousands of people in attendance, he couldn't even refuse this challenge. Prince Giovanni also didn't expect this to happen. He felt that Lucas seemed to have changed. It was like he was no longer the person that he once knew. Andre didn't respond immediately. He looked at the second prince to seek his opinion. This could destroy the plans they had painstakingly made, so he couldn't decide things on his own. Sensing his gaze, Prince Giovanni smiled faintly and gave him a nod of approval. "It seems like we will be seeing another impressive battle." Andre understood the prince's words, so he didn't hesitate any longer. "In that case, I shall accept your challenge." He stood up from his seat and loosened the buttons on his clothes to make himself more comfortable. "You are still tired from the battle, so I will give you some time to rest." Andre glanced at Lucas, trying to see through his thoughts, but his scrutinizing gaze was met with the latter's deadpan expression, making him unable to tell what was on the latter's mind. "There's no need for that." Lucas shook his head. His response shocked the crowd. Roderick, who was still on the platform, couldn't believe his ears. Lucas was speaking to Andre Thompson, a powerful warrior who only had a few rivals in the entire empire, but it seemed like he didn't care about this. This was also an indirect insult to him since he had just fought with Lucas. It was like saying that Lucas didn't put much effort into defeating him. Roderick wanted to say something, but he didn't want to appear like a sore loser, so he could only walk down from the platform with a gloomy face. On the other hand, Andre raised an eyebrow. Is he intentionally provoking me? He couldn't tell whether Lucas was deliberately provoking him or not. "It looks like you are quite confident in your ability, Lord Lucas." Andre jumped down from the spectator's seat. Whoosh! Upon landing on the ground, he walked toward the platform under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Everyone watched the scene with great enthusiasm, eager to witness another epic battle. When he stepped onto the stage, Andre opened his mouth once more and spoke. "Since we already know the rules, why don't we start this fight now?" Hearing this, the referee immediately left the platform. "You don't have any equipment on you, so I will fight you barehanded." Lucas threw aside his shield and his sword. He also removed his armor and tossed it off the platform. Andre Thompson frowned at his words. He was a martial arts expert and his expertise was in close combat. This means that Lucas was challenging him in his field of expertise. Chapter 169. The Crown Prince, Leonard Exler Estania. The crowd was stoked when they realized this would be a martial arts battle. A contest of raw power between two warriors in the Estanian Dragon leaderboard was unheard of. It might have happened unofficially, but there were no reports of it being done in public. The two transcendents ignored the crowd's enthusiastic response as they silently gauged each other's power. The battle had already begun, but no one seemed to have the intention to make the first move. It was as if they were wary of each other's power. As the seconds ticked by, the tension also became increasingly apparent. Amidst the loud cheers of the audience, the two transcendents suddenly moved at the same time. Whoosh! Whoosh! Both men swung their fists without any superficial techniques. In the next moment, a fearsome bang echoed as their fists clashed in midair. Bang! The veins on Lucas's arm protruded as he imbued more mana into his fist. He is indeed different. Lucas thought to himself when he felt the force behind Andre's punch. It was like an unstoppable meteorite that struck the planet with power that could destroy anything in its path. Contrary to the calmness on his face, Andre was inwardly shocked. He had trained his punches and kicks for decades. Although there was no technique added to this punch, this contained the years of his relentless efforts in perfecting this simple move. No one had come out unscathed after receiving his punch. At least not until this very moment. The man in front of him looked completely unharmed, and he was even able to compete with him equally. Lucas Silversword, we have underestimated you. The two transcendents retreated after that initial clash. Andre furrowed his eyebrows and he decided to no longer hold back. Lucas, you have become more powerful, so I won't hold my punches anymore. As soon as he said those words, his aura completely changed. A heavy and ferocious pressure descended upon Lucas's body as Andre released his aura. Facing this fearsome power, Lucas also let loose his mana, enveloping his whole body like a protective membrane. The pressure on his body immediately disappeared. Suddenly, he felt an overpowering killing intent, momentarily freezing him in place. Subsequently, Andre appeared in front of him, unleashing a devastating kick aimed at his head. Whoosh! The air seemed to split from his attack. You are not the only one who learned martial arts. Thinking about this, Lucas performed a spinning kick which brought forth a tremendous amount of force. Bang! The two transcendents exchanged a series of blows, causing shockwaves with every collision. The spectators could hardly open their eyes due to the fearsome winds created because of their battle. At the VIP section, the special guests watched the battle with bated breath. Insane. Their punches and kicks could kill an elite knight. I think this is getting dangerous. One of them could end up dead if this fight continues. Prince Giovanni frowned. Lucas was more powerful than he had imagined. I was wrong. Lucas isn't just a northern tiger. He is a wild northern tiger. But this makes things more fun. Taming a wild tiger is more exciting. While he was immersed in his thoughts, he suddenly heard a series of footsteps behind him. He subconsciously turned his head and saw someone that made his eyes turn cold. Leonard. Prince Giovanni took a deep breath as he stared at this person. He didn't even bother to conceal the look of spite on his face. Leonard Exler-Estania, the crown prince of the empire, and the man who would one day sit in the jeweled throne. The crown prince had long, wavy golden hair that extended to his shoulders. His ocean blue eyes exuded dignity befitting someone with imperial bloodline. He wasn't tall or muscular like the second prince. He had a slender physique similar to that of scholars untrained in combat. However, hidden in this slim body was a power that only a few had ever reached, the realm of elite knights. As if sensing his gaze, Leonard looked over in his direction and let out a faint smile. When the people in the VIP section discovered that it was the crown prince, they immediately rose to their feet and greeted him respectfully. "Greetings, your highness." Unlike the second prince who everyone was fearful of, everyone was genuinely respectful toward the crown prince. "It is good to see you, everyone. It looks like there is something fun to watch here." The crown prince displayed his graceful bearing, which was the exact opposite of his younger brother's temperament. Looking at his elder brother, who was surrounded by the nobility, Prince Giovanni snorted in his heart. He took his eyes away from the crown prince and focused his attention on the battle. "Oh my! Isn't that Lord Andre down there?" Leonard's voice drifted into his ears, making him even more irritated. Prince Giovanni didn't want to lash out in public, so he chose to ignore the crown prince who had intentionally sat next to him. The nobles who were seated in the VIP section became nervous. They could only pray that these two wouldn't get into conflict. "I'm surprised that Lord Lucas can fight Lord Andre equally in martial arts. No wonder you are interested in him." Prince Leonard rubbed his chin with a thoughtful smile. He knew that his brother's goal was to invite Lucas onto his side, and he was here for that same reason. Prince Giovanni was ticked off by his words. He glanced at the crown prince and frowned. "What are you insinuating?" "Relax." Prince Leonard shrugged as he chuckled, showing an innocent look on his face. "Giovanni, you can't force Lord Lucas to join you. You should let him make the choice himself. Forcing him might only backfire," he added with a teasing tone. Prince Giovanni clenched his fists, and just as he was about to respond, a violent explosion rocked the Colosseum. Boom! Chapter 170. A special moment. The spectators gasped. On the stage, the high and mighty Andre Thompson, who everyone thought would win the battle, was now covered in bruises. His fancy clothes had been torn apart, making him look like a mess. On the other hand, Lucas wasn't any better. His upper body was also covered in wounds and blood could be seen trickling down his lips. He is not using his full strength. He has yet to use that move. Lucas thought as he recalled the special move that solidified Andre's position on the leaderboard. It was an unnamed fist technique, but due to its notorious power, people started calling it the Fist of Calamity. Lucas wanted to know whether he could withstand that fist, but he had already accomplished his goal. Furthermore, making Andre unleash that move would only force him to reveal more of his power. Maria had specifically warned him not to use his trump cards. Although he was reluctant to end the fight, he could only let out a helpless sigh. "It was a great fight, Lord Andre." He cupped his fists while expressing his respect toward the other party. He then turned his head to the referee and calmly said, "I forfeit." Hearing this, Andre was baffled by his decision. Lucas had fought evenly with him, and there was no clear winner between them, so it left a bitter taste in his mouth. "Lord Lucas," he called out. Lucas raised his eyebrows and stopped in his tracks. He glanced at Andre and saw the latter giving him a deep look. He didn't bother to explain himself. He just nodded at Andre and jumped down from the platform. It was only then that the referee had reacted. He leaped onto the platform and announced the results of the match. leaving the crowd confused. Why did Lord Lucas surrender? He doesn't look that injured. Did he sustain internal injuries? Perhaps Lord Lucas sustained a hidden injury that we hadn't seen. That's too bad then. The battle could have ended differently if they had continued. Still, it was an awesome fight. Just look at the state of the platform. It's like a tornado had passed by. The crowd discussed, speculating the real reason behind Lucas's surrender. Meanwhile, in the VIP section, Prince Leonard stared at Lucas's back with a curious smile on his face. Is he afraid of Lord Andre's fist of calamity, or is there another underlying reason for his decision? Now I finally understand why His Majesty wanted to get you on his side. Lucas Silversword. You are one enigmatic man. Beside him, Prince Giovanni couldn't sit still any longer. He rose from his seat and turned around with a flick of his sleeve before he left impatiently. Prince Leonard raised an eyebrow as he watched his younger brother leave with quick steps. At this moment, realization suddenly dawned on him. I understand now. Lucas did not just randomly challenge Andre. It was a deliberate move to reveal a portion of his power to the public. Thinking about this, a playful smile hung on his lips. Oh, my dear younger brother. This is not someone that you can tame. He chuckled as he rose to his feet. Let's go. The show is over. Your Highness, what about Lord Lucas? Didn't you say that you want to get him to come to our side? An old man dressed in standard noble attire asked in a low voice. Prince Leonard smiled profoundly at the old man as he shook his head. Lord Tyrone, Lord Lucas has already made a choice. Going after him would be a fruitless endeavor. Hearing the Crown Prince's words, the old man was puzzled. On the 23rd day of March, Alaric came to Rivad with a large entourage bearing valuable gifts. The carriages that carried the gifts were escorted by 100 warriors dressed in ceremonial uniforms. The striking entourage shocked the onlookers, and some even followed them out of curiosity, wondering what was about to happen. Isn't that Lord Alaric? What are all those gifts for? Is he going to propose marriage? It seems like it. Alaric noticed the increasing number of people following them, but he ignored them. As they got closer to the estate of House Paxley, he felt inexplicably nervous. I did not think that proposing marriage would actually make me this nervous. He smiled wryly. He had never done this in his past life, so it felt like he was going into unknown territory. Alaric took a deep breath to calm his nerves. My lord, everything will be all right. Just relax. Henry's voice drifted into his ears. Alaric glanced at the old warrior and smiled awkwardly. Am I that obvious? Henry chuckled. Your face says it all. Don't overthink things. Just be your usual self, and I assure you that everything will go smoothly. He added. The old man's words reassured him. Thank you, Sir Henry. It's my pleasure, my lord. After half an hour, they finally arrived outside the main gate of House Paxley's estate, where a group was already waiting for them. Alaric immediately spotted Hershey in the crowd. She was wearing a white dress with a golden floral design. How beautiful! Alaric subconsciously smiled upon seeing her. The crowd seemed to have vanished from his eyes, and the only one he could see was Hershey. In that instant, it was as if time had slowed down. The noise around him disappeared, and all he could hear was a beautiful melody that struck a chord in his heart. However, a burst of boisterous laughter broke this special moment. Ha ha ha! Thank you for coming here, Lord Alaric. Alaric glanced at Baron Nathan and forced a smile as he jumped off from his horse. He lowered his head, showing his courtesy to his future father-in-law. Greetings, my lord. I have come here to propose marriage to your daughter. Hearing this, Baron Nathan's smile deepened. Ha ha ha! What a joyous occasion! It looks like my daughter's wish of marrying you will finally be fulfilled soon. The Baron couldn't conceal his joy, and he didn't forget to send his friends a smug look. When he heard that Alaric was coming over to propose marriage, he invited his old friends all for the sake of letting them witness this moment. The faces of the Baron's friends twitched when they saw his smug look. Alaric noticed this exchange of glances, but he didn't say anything about it. Nathan Paxley would soon become his father-in-law, so he didn't mind this little pretentious act. My lord, What are you saying in front of everyone? Hershey smiled demurely at her father's words. Oh, my. Silly me. Look at my mouth. Ha ha ha. Baron Nathan laughed heartily. They exchanged polite words before the Baron invited them inside the estate. He brought them to a pavilion right behind the main mansion. We will leave you two here. Us old fogies will only disturb you, so we will take our leave first. Baron Nathan winked at Alaric as he said these words. He then sent his daughter a look of encouragement before he pulled his friends away. I apologize for my father's antics, my lord. He is just enjoying this moment, so I hope you don't mind his behavior. Hershey was a bit embarrassed. Alaric laughed lightly when he heard her words. It is all right. I do not mind it at all. He then found himself at loss for words. The lines that he had memorized before coming here suddenly disappeared from his mind. Oh no. Just then, he recalled Henry's words. Just be yourself. Thinking about this, Alaric let go of his worries. He looked into Hershey's eyes and smiled. You look beautiful, Hershey. Looking at his radiant smile, Hershey's heart melted. You also look dashing, Alaric. Alaric didn't bother to hide his affection. He offered his hand and asked, Do you know how to dance? As a noble, he had been taught how to dance at a young age. Although the dance steps he had learned when he was young seemed to be a distant memory, these forgotten steps strangely appeared in his mind right at this moment. If you want access to fast updates or the full novel in high-quality audio, contact me now and buy. I offer over 300 complete audiobooks from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, and more. No locked episodes, no subscriptions, just one-time payment via PayPal or Ko-fi. Message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out the full list of available novels on Discord. Start listening to your next favorite audiobook today.